All right, if you have ever played with one of these woke dungeon masters, let me know about it in the comment section or the Telegram. I'm curious to see what your experience would be in the woke realms of D&D or the these kind of fantasy realms. Click the links for Odyssey, Bit Chute, or to join the Telegram. So Clayton Whittle, alt-left extremism comes to D&D, the Soyboy story, and it's it's tricky to comment, to make a comparison between the way, like the physiognomy of these people and their views, which is weird because he's saying that such a comparison doesn't exist. But, you look at a lot of these people and you go like, okay, you read their ideologies and you go, okay, now I want you to imagine what they look like. Draw a picture of it if you can, or describe them like what they look like. And, it's never tall, well-built, good-looking, blonde-haired, blue-eyed stereotype. It's always going to be some dark corner of the internet, usually some fat, bearded soy boy doing a live stream on YouTube with, 4 other guys and like nobody in the audience, and they're pushing these bizarre ideas. It's like, yeah, so is that as popular as like the original Lord of the Rings? Oh no, it'll catch on. When? In like 4,000 years? I mean, like maybe you guys just have bad ideas, or like you get some shared mental illness or something. Anyway, like the thing is to talk about people's looks. I mean, like you got a different experience if you're a beautiful woman going through life than if you're more on the mundane side. Just like a tall, well-built, athletic, intelligent guy is going to have a different experience than one who's not. And to pretend otherwise is very disingenuous. These things are different. And to say, I can't help it. I mean, you can look at Antifa and you go, listen, these people all look like they're like have got some organic issues. I mean, you can look at a collection of these people and like they don't look healthy. And I mean, clearly, objectively, you could point this out. I mean, you could just like give collect 1,000 pictures of people and try to point out like, well, who would you, who's looking a certain way, who looks friendly, who looks open to debate and discussion. And you look at some of these people like, okay, these people are nuts. And the correlation between, these type of groups, these far left, alt left extremist ideologies and mental illness, it's like, you can't ignore that, man. It is, you see these pictures. I mean, you can see a certain affect about somebody's face when you know that they're not engaging in reality like the rest of us are engaging in reality. So when you see this article, do European lives matter? You say that, it's like, oh, that's very triggering. Like, why would it possibly be triggering? You got to start by making the assumption that these people are nutty. And I don't mean that in a humorous, hyperbolic way, but I mean actually off their rocker, organic cognitive impairment. They start with this conclusion and they build on it, and it's just nonsense, but nobody ever rebuts it because you just get blocked on social media, or you get dogpiled, or which would get your account eventually removed. You might get doxxed, fired, or canceled by the banks, etc. So they stay in these dangerous echo chambers because nobody ever really makes the effort to pull them out of it, because you'll just get dogpiled on social media. This leads to these dangerous extreme left-wing belief systems where they always get these, like they're getting constant positive reinforcement. You need a little real-world negative. You need a little facts and evidence to kind of bring you back down to earth, because, a lot of these things these people are pushing, you go, okay, so empirically, where has that worked? Oh, nowhere ever. So why would you think it would work now? Right? Which is a good question, because, I mean, these people are living in deep, deep fantasy land. Thing is, they're in these areas where they're just like back and forth posting cringe, and then they congratulate each other on posting cringe and like who's the better feminist ally and who gets to sniff panties that week or something. My girlfriend let me sleep with her this week. Congratulations. Keep in mind that 99% of these guys all have this same fat, neck-bearded, soy boy look to them. Their nightmare is like 3 flights of stairs. If they had to climb 3 flights of stairs every day, they would probably write Twitter articles about how stairs are for fascists, which is kind of I guess we'll take that one. So this guy, what do you mean, we? So this guy starts off with a statement that these games promote the idea that, I will say to escape the filter, tribal essentialism, that tribal identity determines the path we take in life, and that is somehow a negative thing, but he never proves it, or he never shows the pros and cons of this straw man argument, which doesn't seem to be outlandish. It's saying that different things are different. Yeah, that's a logical statement in this space-time existence. Different things are different. That's how the language works. Different things will behave differently. They will lead different lives because of these immutable characteristics that are very objectively and easy to prove. A dog is not a cat. A man is not a woman. An Irishman is not a Korean. Those last two statements will have people palpitating. Different things are different should not be such a shocking supposition. He then says that people will draw comparisons between fiction and reality, and that this is a negative thing. And I can tell you the punchline without reading his paper. And then what a coincidence, because after I read it, the punchline is the same. And it's not because of Nostradamus or because of confirmation bias. You can go read it for yourself. There are no surprises with these people because they repeat these same ideas. If you're in an echo chamber, you're just going to be passing back and forth the same ideas. If you don't know your opponent's argument, you don't know your own. The best ideas are sharpened with someone who's vigorous and zealotly advocating a position that is adverse to yours. That is how you strengthen an argument. And that used to be, it wasn't a left or a right-wing position. It was just a position of rational people who want to arrive at the truth, not at my truth, of sharpening your argument by talking to other people like two reasonable adults without ad hominems and silly invectives. The thing is, you read his story. It's the hypertext is in the original article. Whatever people like him get into, they will destroy it. That's the punchline. That's always the punchline to people like this. Every once in a while, they create their own game. It might do pretty well on Kickstarter, like a POC BLT version of Dungeons and Dragons. But after 2 years, or their own version of Harry Potter, which is, they love Harry Potter, it's just they hate J.K. Rowling, or they pretend to hate J.K. Rowling. It'll do well. It'll get, hundreds of thousands or maybe millions of dollars or something. But after 2 years, it's kind of gone. I mean, it doesn't have any lasting impact because it's built up of fluff and nonsense. Because SJW can't tell stories. Their premise is flawed. They're starting with this diverse global view as the basis of a story. And it's like saying the queendom has a long history of BLT queens. What? How does that work? Well, asking questions is for bigots. You're not a bigot, are you? Because if you are, we'll dox you, we'll get you fired, and we'll try to destroy your life. Like, okay, I guess we're just not even going to engage in this conversation if you're going to resort to that. Well, you shouldn't say any things that you'll get canceled for. They're saying you don't want free speech in any capacity, do you? The only truth is in anonymity, which is why they try to take that away from Twitter. It's like, hey, go for it, accelerate it. People just go to Gab anyway. Or Telegram, which is, you think Gab is based, Telegram is just distilled Gab. So I guess they couldn't even have a royal concept because, it's a hierarchy, right? So the story would have to be about a Hobbit-type village, but it's going to have to be mixed tribe Hobbits, Irish Hobbits and Afro Hobbits. They can't fight goblins or orcs because we all know what they represent. Except we don't. We don't. Even the most istophobic among us, probably a wanderer's choice, don't really draw those conclusions when reading Lord of the Rings. You're just enjoying the story. It's like, yes, as an adult, if you were studying the story in an academic setting, you might start drawing those conclusions. But most people are just even as adults, you're just reading the story for enjoyment of the characters the four main characters in the story. You just want to read their adventures. Well, yes, but you can draw analogies. Yeah, you can do that with anything. Obviously, great literature is meant to do that. But you can also just enjoy it on a surface level, which I think most of us did. So who do these mixed Hobbit, democratically elected, diverse, who do they fight? Well, we'll make the orcs blonde-haired and blue-eyed so that nobody important gets offended. And that is pretty much an alt-left story. It's a story about nothing, and it won't stand the test of time, and it's going to be gone in a puff of wind. Not only do these globalist SJWs can't abide comedy, they hate comedy. And, I've been saying for a long time, even before the gift from overseas, about comedy, and it can't exist in a communist system. And finally, other people are finally coming to that conclusion because they're looking around. They go, so where's the comedy in the past few years? They're like, after 2020, there is none. Anything funny is going to have to be underground. Anyway, they literally can't function in a world where people are free to tell stories, because every story has multiple meanings if you want to interpret it that way. And once the globalists are in power, they must censor everyone who criticizes them. They want and need censorship to thrive, and we prefer the sunlight of free speech and the open marketplace of ideas, which they used to be on board with. But I look back and I realize, that was in the 60s. It was over 50 years ago that the left wing had that, marching through Berkeley demanding free speech, and now they're demanding censorship. It's like, you guys have either been completely subverted. It's like Rage Against the Machine. Quick, help the FBI track down those J6 people who actually did Rage Against the Machine and speak truth to power. So you guys are on the side of the government now. And, I hate to use that comparison of brown shirts and fascists and stuff, but if you're advocating on behalf of the government, then holy shit. Oh my God. What does that make you? Yeah. What does that make you? Anyway, they don't want a BLC. They don't just want a BLT, POC, propaganda version of Lord of the Rings or all these other stories. Ultimately, they don't want you telling any story whatsoever, because your stories will always do better than theirs, because our stories ring with this deeper meaning. Their stories are propaganda, and like obvious propaganda. Some of their stuff sells, like a Kickstarter project will sell. But like it's going to be like Disney 2015. You get a big initial sale, but it's not something you're passing on to your kids or you're rewatching. That's why Disney was the Disney 2015 series was underperforming. The Star Wars I'm talking about, it underperformed because his stuff didn't get rewatchability, where the original stuff did get tremendous rewatchability. So yeah, you got some BLT board game. It's never going to make it into the culture. It's never going to get passed on to your kids. Most of these people aren't even having kids, so it's a weird kind of ephemeral event that it's like it's here today, and then in 10 years it's as if it never happened, because the people aren't necessarily around anymore. Be careful with that statement, buddy. So why do they always... I wish I could edit these things, but I could if I do it on a laptop. I'm not going to do that. Why do these people always act as parasites and take over and destroy something? If their ideas are so good, why must they subvert? Why not just create new stories? Well, as they say, evil can't create. So he starts out with this slippery straw man and builds a house of cards on it. But his argument is shockingly weak. Embarrassingly weak for someone who's getting his PhD. His argument seems to boil down to different people have the same abilities, that different things are the same. The language of that statement proves it wrong. It's like saying 2 + 2 = something other than 4. I present humans on planet Earth as Exhibit 1. Here's the thing. He skates out onto very thin ice because he makes these weak claims that are objectively incorrect, material misrepresentations of reality. The issue is all of his core tenets are slippery. Racism is more of a power and control term used to manipulate people than an organic word. It's used as a negative by these globalists, but only against some people. Then it's not a real word. It's just propaganda. But all this is ultimately deck chairs on the Titanic. The better solution is to keep away from these people, call them out for what they are, gatekeep SJWs, because they will destroy things that they could never create. The story gets repeated to the point of absurdity. You've seen that meme of, people like us create something, and people like them want diversity and inclusion, and equity. What an acronym that is. And they want to come in, and then they want to become given power, and then they take it over and they kick out the people who started it originally. It's like, yeah, you got to keep them out from the start. And there's a way to do that, is to do the South Park method, is you start off by being offensive. So you tell people like, yeah, this is what you're getting into. This is a politically incorrect zone, and not a Bill Maher politically incorrect zone, but a legitimately politically incorrect zone. So if you're not on board with that and the free expression that comes along with it, then this probably is not for you. It won't matter. I mean, they will try to subvert no matter what. They have to get in there. These are the people who are desperate to be mods on boards or in rooms where they can exert this control and slowly start corrupting it and get in there. It's like, so you didn't create it, but you wormed your way into it. It's like, why don't you just create something organic? Because we're demons in human skin suits. Honestly, it's like kind of that's what it feels like a lot these days. Like there's a lot of really undiagnosed mental illness running around out there. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe, support you on Coffee or Subscribe Star. Join the Telegram for everything that is really actually not politically correct. Wanderer's Choice, looking at you guys. And I can't even use the other guy's name. This other guy's got a name. It's I can't even repeat it. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys on the next episode.